David Samson, who's joining us now on the River Islands guest line. TV. He's the best. Look at that smile. He's locked in on it. Come on. Joining us now, former Miami Marlins president and host of the Nothing Personal podcast on Meadowlark Media. David, good morning. Oh, sound.
Sammy, turn him up. We got one guy.
No, we didn't even hear that
Do
first
that again. We got one guy behind the glass today. Everyone's sick.
It's me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Good. David, let's start.
I want to be very clear.
What?
I'm a Survivor guy. I'm not a Love Island guy.
Thank you.
Do you think you could survive Love Island, though?
Let me give you a break.
I don't even know what you have to do. If it means that I have to be an empathetic, loving partner, I would say I've got like a 20-80 shot.
It depends. You could be that, or you could be cutthroat and just talk to multiple people. So there's that.
David,
80-20.
David, I've been watching you for, quite some time. Yesterday you did a little piece on Buster Posey and how Buster only was reporting that essentially Rafi Devers, Adames, Chapman could all be available. And let's just start right here. You said to us about a month ago that Buster Posey can take one of two routes: acknowledge the mistakes that he's made, or dive deeper into the denial. What did you make of Buster Olney coming out and saying, hey, everyone's for sale?
Well, the rule is in baseball, everyone's always available. And it sounds crazy. You'd never trade Shohei Ohtani as an example, but Shohei Ohtani's available. The Dodgers will listen to anyone on anything, and GMs talk to each other about everything and everyone. So there's no such thing. Even players with the no trade clause, it's available. You just have to pay him extra, talk to the agent. So conversations are happening. So I didn't take the Buster Olney report as a direction that Buster Posey was heading in. I took it as, it's a random Monday. Let's get some information out there, whatever day he did it. But I will judge what actually happens. Does he eat some of the money? Does the owner allow him to eat some of the money in order to move on from some of these players in order to try to get better? I'm going to judge the action, not the thought of the action.
David, I think you've been probably painted as someone who's very heartless when it comes to players and transactions because you're very methodical about it. Not that they're widgets, but hey, is this going to make my team better or not? And does it pencil financially? So we were having a conversation. There's not a lot of emotion attached to Rafi Devers or Adames or Chapman locally in terms of the fans, but there is to Logan Webb. How much should that be a factor for any organization fielding a team? How much should the fans and their emotions factor into a decision on whether a player stays or goes?
Well, I guess I would say let's ask your audience. Does your audience like when you guys complain and talk about a Giants team that doesn't win? Or do you get better ratings and better engagement when you have a Giants team that's winning the World Series every other year? I think it's going to be the latter. And so what you hope your front office does is put together a team that can do that. And to do that, you need the ability to make decisions that are not based on emotion. And it doesn't mean that I'm robotic or all about analytics, which I'm not either. It means that I'm pragmatic, is what I like to think. The Giants aren't good. So that's okay. There's many years that teams aren't good, and the Giants have been really good at being good in a lot of years. But acknowledging you're not good is the first step, and then figuring out how to get good. And if trading Logan Webb is a path that you believe in where you can get good faster, then it's your responsibility to trade Logan Webb. It's not even a question that you ask of the fans or the audience, because when you're good because you were right, believe me, your ratings are up and your audience is happy.
David Samson joining us here on the River Islands guest line. This segment is brought to you by Golden State, serving the Bay Area for 3 generations. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit goldenstatelumber.com. David, do you think that Buster Posey, so he's clearly acknowledging, hey, I made a mistake here. These guys are available. Let's try to move off some of these contracts. Probably not going to be able to move off all of them, but if we can move off one, I think they'd be happy at this trade deadline, talking about Adames, Devers, or Chapman. Is he the right guy, though, going forward to try to dig themselves in this franchise out of this hole if he was the one that kind of dug it himself? You get what I'm saying?
It's one of the great questions as a team president that you ask yourself, which is, it's like with a pitcher in a game. Do you know how we talk about, well, a pitcher got himself out of trouble? We'll talk about he walked the bases loaded and then got 2 Ks and a pop-up. And you're like, look at that. What a job he did. And then you think to yourself as you're evaluating, well, dude, wouldn't it be great if he hadn't walked the bases loaded? Wouldn't that have been a good start to an inning? So you have to be careful when you're evaluating, and you can't just evaluate the results. What you hope that your owners are doing, they're evaluating the process. Because I recall when the deals were made, let's not forget, and including on this show, when Chapman was signed, it was not, oh my God, what a terrible decision. This is the worst idea ever. When Adames was signed, way to go, San Francisco stepped up and got the shortstop. You traded for Rafael Devers. We're taking advantage of a dysfunctional Boston. It's only been a year, and now you redo sort of your perspective like, we're burdened with these contracts. I hope we can get rid of one of them would be amazing. So evaluating the process is really important in this circumstance.
So, like you have a long history of some incredible trades. Like the Miguel Cabrera and Dontrelle Willis trade was a huge trade for you guys. You also have the Stanton trade, because I remember the Giants were involved. They were trying to send Christian Arroyo over there. I don't know if that was ever a real deal. What are these conversations looking like right now? Like, because you've talked about buying down money. So explain to maybe our audience, like, what are the realistic conversations looking like right now? Are they attaching Logan Webb to one of these not so great contracts? Are they buying down money? Like, maybe walk us through some of that.
Well, first of all, let me just correct you in one thing. I did not trade Stanton. That was done by Derek Jeter, who came after me. But no problem. But 2, like when we traded Beckett to Boston, we really didn't want to. We wanted to trade Mike Lowell because he was being paid a lot of money, and we didn't think he was good anymore. We were wrong because he ended up being an MVP caliber player after that in Boston. But Boston said to us, hey, we'll take Lowell and we'll pay his entire salary, but you got to include Beckett. And we knew that Beckett was beloved by the owner, John Henry. And so you start to make a trade based on, all right, you're going to take money. That means we're going to have to give a better player or receive a lesser player. But we didn't want to receive lesser players. We wanted Hanley Ramirez. We wanted Anibal Sanchez. And so we had to then include Beckett. So what you do in trades is there's 2 components. There's player value, and then there's money value. If you're going to get someone to take on the entirety of a bad contract, you don't get something for nothing in this world. What you have to give up is that you get worse players. You could still hit on those players, but from a prospect standpoint, they're going to be worse quality. And that's what you negotiate first with your owner and then with the other GM, because it starts with your owner, guys. They've got to tell you, hey, we're not going to pay this guy's salary, or I'm willing to.
So teams on the receiving end right now, one of the comments that I get a lot in Instagram and all over basically is like, well, why would anyone want to take on any money not knowing what's happening with the CBA next year? And I've heard you kind of play both sides of it, where you said, teams are going to try to rush and sign everyone before a lockout so that whatever salary number that they're at for their payroll is godfathered in. Like, what is the pro and the con of absorbing a big contract right now with the uncertainty of the CBA for any of these teams that might be interested in Rafi, Adames, or Chapman?
The con is very simple, that if there's no baseball next year, your player's getting a year older, and you still have them signed for multiple years after that, and you're losing a prime year of production. And that's really an important part of the negotiation that obviously has not happened yet, and nor will it happen anytime soon. But one of the last things that gets negotiated in a CBA is what happens with service time. Are we going to pretend that there was a full season, even though there wasn't? Or are we going to pretend there was a half a season so players are property of their existing teams for an extra half a year on the back end? That's a very important part of the negotiation, which, guys, we're not even close to. Like, we're not even in the same zip code as that. But those are important points, because if you have Devers signed, and the theory is the back end is going to be terrible anyway, you need performance on the front end. And if you're losing a year on the front end, you're really quite in a screwed. I'm sorry to tell you. So that is a factor in these deals that GMs and team presidents think about. So you are thinking about the CBA. In terms of a salary cap, when we talk about being grandfathered in, everyone's going to have a runway to compliance. That is normal. It's possible the runway to compliance will be the length of the next CBA. There's no way to know. It hasn't been negotiated yet. But that's not really what owners are thinking about in terms of complying with the salary cap. They're more thinking about the production that they may miss out on with missed games.
So then, from your vantage point, what is reasonable? Like, what do you think actually could happen here with these three big contracts? One goes, two goes, three goes, none of them go? Like, just in general, I mean, the Giants are just going to have to eat a lot of money here, huh?
So you can get rid of a player. If you volunteer to pay 80% of a player contract, you'll find someone to take Devers at an 80% discount, or Chapman or Adames. So it really comes down to money, and it sounds terrible to say, but it really is true. It's what's your choke point? How much are you willing to pay a player not to be on your team? And that's when you look at other factors like, what do they like in the clubhouse? What is it like for this player to be a member of our organization? How close are we to releasing this player? Because then you're paying 100% of the money. So if you get a team to take 10%, you've actually gained 10% because you were willing to eat the whole thing. So you have to have separate discussions on each player, decide what your choke point is on each player, then send your GM out to negotiate with other teams.
David Samson joining us here on the River Islands guest line, former Miami Marlins president. Find him with the Nothing Personal podcast via Meadowlark Media. We got this guy, Bryce Eldridge. Giants fans are hoping he's going to be the face of the franchise. Bryce has even embraced and said that he wants to be the face of the franchise. He's 21 years old. Obviously, we're a year removed from the Rafi Devers trade. Rafi never really has had a chokehold on this fan base, on this city. I think the guy, he's making $300+ million, David. He could walk down the street right now, no one would recognize him. That's how much he's landed here.
Other than that, he's big.
And he's big guy. Well, Bryce, well, this is another thing. Bryce is 6'7", 6'6". He's larger than life. He's this huge guy. Like when do you know you got a future or a now face of a franchise? Because this guy's been playing with his hair on fire the last couple months. He's a number one overall pick with this franchise. Not number one overall, but top number one first round pick for this squad. Like, when do you know you got something, I guess is my question. And when do you know you're going to start going all in and building around someone?
It's a funny question because you can say you know, but you don't really know. You think you know, and then you get it wrong way more than you get it right. I've thought I've known several times, and I've been right. When you see Giancarlo Stanton in the minor leagues, you know, and then you're right. You see Miguel Cabrera, you're ready to go, you're right. You see Dontrelle Willis, you're like, he's a throw-in, and then you call him up, and all of a sudden he's winning the World Series for you, but then his career lasts for another 3-4 years, and that's it. So was I right about Dontrelle? Was I wrong? What's the way to evaluate? And these are very special people to me who are winning players. It's just hard to know. And it's like, I bring your attention to Pittsburgh. Connor Griffin called up. It's a huge, huge thing. On the heels of Paul Skeens, that team is set for life. They've got the pitcher. They've got the hitter. It's shortstop. It's number one pitcher. Look at his legs. He's got speed and an arm and you'd think they were winning 100 games. Meanwhile, you just don't really know. We are a year removed. Is Paul Skeens the best pitcher in the National League today? The answer is clear. It's no. Today, he's not.
It's
Mizorowski from the Brewers.
Yes.
So what does it mean to know? How long does it have to last for you to know? Do I love the idea of building a team around a guy? No one does that in baseball. It's not like basketball where you can build a team around Curry and you then get a piece with Green and then you get a piece with Clay and then you have that as a dynasty in your mind. It doesn't work that way in baseball. You're constantly needing pitching. You're always needing better defense. You're always needing depth in your lineup. So I don't agree that the Giants are saying, oh, we'll choose him and build the whole team around him.
So, I'm going to ask this question because I want your perspective on and like the front office ownership and how they're viewing this. everyone is going to these games. I mean, they're averaging 35, 36, 37,000.
Awesome.
And there's a variety of factors, okay, as to why people are showing up. San Francisco in general is having like a renaissance in terms of downtown, but it's a party atmosphere. So there's one aspect of everyone's like, well, why would ownership want to change if fans are showing up? Almost like the old Cubs mantra in the 80s and in the 90s. Like, hey, even though the product stinks, people are showing up. Are you more or less inclined as an ownership group to make changes on your roster based on attendance figures?
That's like saying that you're the number one rental car company, but you're going to rest on your laurels and not change over your fleet. It's like saying that you've got the biggest market share in a soft drink company and not doing any sort of marketing. Think about if Coke and Pepsi didn't market and didn't do ads. You know, we wouldn't have Michael Jackson's hair on fire. We wouldn't have Cindy Crawford. So God, that aged me, both of those things. I apologize. But just because you're doing something well doesn't mean you stop doing what you did to do it well. It means you do it even better. My view is you're either getting better or you're getting worse. There is no staying the same in business. Just like with your show and my show, we're either getting better or we're getting worse. If we are stagnant, we're done. So I don't think that anybody looks and says, look, my attendance is so great, I can get rid of my sales staff or I can get rid of my marketing budget. I just don't think they view it that way. And then I'd like to further answer your question. Your ballpark and your city is amazing. I love coming. I didn't miss a trip to San Francisco over my 18 years in baseball. Anytime our team was there, I was there because it's just where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in a ballpark like that, and I just love it. And so the fact that fans get to do that, they are not taking it for granted, and I think that that's amazing.